The story begins with the entire world engulfed in radiation, leading to the demise of all humanity and a global power outage. Amidst this desolation, we find a lone girl named N in a remote village. To protect herself from the radiation, she wears a special suit as she retrieves some essentials from a nearby shop and heads back home. As N approaches her house, she removes the suit because her area, surrounded by mountains and forests, remains untouched by the radiation. Upon reaching home, N meticulously cleanses herself and takes a bath, washing away any potential exposure to radiation. She then falls asleep. The next morning, N wakes up and attends to her farm work. She lives here with her dog, enduring the solitude but striving to survive. N doesn't believe anyone else is left alive. Occasionally, she ventures into the deserted neighboring town to gather necessary food and supplies. One day, while N was out with her dog suddenly barked near the forest. N discreetly observes another survivor, just like her, wearing a special suit to protect himself from the radiation. This person, named John, was searching for a safe haven, a place where radiation hadn't yet reached. He realizes that the air and water here are still free from radiation, so he removes his suit, feeling immense relief as he breathes the open air, unpolluted by radiation. N secretly follows John and sees him bathing in a lake, and he immediately warns him to get out of the water as quickly as possible, explaining that it's contaminated with radiation. John is initially startled by N's presence. However, N assures him that she means no harm and urges him to get out of the water immediately. Frightened, John quickly exits the water, but it's already too late. He has been exposed to the radiation, causing him to become ill. John begins to vomit and struggles to reach his van. He tries to retrieve an injection from inside the van, but is too unwell to do so. He then pleads with N to give him the injection. N administers the injection. Since John was unwell, N takes him to her home. Before that, she cleans John and takes a bath herself. For the next few days, N cares for John, giving him medicine and tending to his needs. N prays to God for John's swift recovery, as she had been alone for a long time and no longer wishes to be. After a few days, John slowly begins to recover. He thanks N, then tells her that he is an engineer and used to work in a government bunker, which allowed him to survive the catastrophe. However, his food supplies eventually ran out, forcing him to leave the bunker. He then walked to this place, John continued. He explained to N that because the area was surrounded by hills and forests, the radiation hadn't reached it yet. N, a deeply religious girl, told John that God had preserved this place specifically for them. N then showed John a family photo, telling him she used to live there with her parents and younger brother. They had all survived the initial radiation, but her parents had left to search for other survivors. When they didn't return for a long time, N's younger brother went looking for them, but none of them had come back. The next day, N was working in her vegetable patch. Seeing her, John began to help with her tasks. He assisted N in filling up diesel from a local petrol pump and used the diesel to start a tractor that had been out of commission for a long time. That night, they ate together. John told N he was incredibly happy to be there because he knew there had to be a place on Earth that the radiation hadn't touched. N was also happy with John, as she wouldn't have to be alone anymore. Slowly, John began to develop feelings for N. The following day, N was fishing in a nearby pond. She brought the fish to John, and he cooked it, and then told John that winter was approaching, so they needed to stock up on food because the fields would dry up in the cold, causing problems. Therefore, they both needed to accumulate more food now. And wanted to have electricity in the house so they could turn on the fridge before winter and store the fish from the pond. With electricity, they wouldn't have to live in darkness either. John then learned that Ian had a generator that had been out of order for a long time. John tried to fix it, but despite many attempts, it wouldn't work. Then, an idea sparked in John's mind. He told Ian they could generate electricity by building a hydroelectric wheel using the waterfall's water, but it would require a large wooden wheel. John spotted a nearby church made of wood. He suggested to N that they use the church's wood, but N refused. She was religious, and her father used to work at that church. Although John had more faith in science, he didn't want to upset N, so he abandoned the plan. However, John secretly wished to pursue the plan. Feeling dejected, he went to the store and started drinking alcohol. N went to the store and brought him home, but due to excessive drinking, John began to behave badly towards N, which hurt her. The next morning, John realized his mistake and apologized to N. Meanwhile, N and John were spending quite a good time together. They both liked each other. At night, when John tried to get closer to N, she stopped him and said they should get to know each other better first, and that rushing things wouldn't be right. John accepted her words. One day, N was walking a little distance from home when she saw a stranger named Caleb. He was in very bad shape, extremely thirsty, and asked N for water. N is happy to see him and brings him home, but John isn't pleased because he fears Caleb might have radiation on his body. He checks for radiation and finds a slight amount. He tells Caleb to stay outside as he needs rest. but N insists they can't leave Caleb in this state and should bring him inside. John agrees and allows Caleb to stay indoors. At mealtime, Caleb asks John, "How did you survive the radiation?" John explains that he was in a government bunker, but had to leave when the food ran out. He then met N while walking on the road. Caleb shares his own story, saying that when the radiation started, he and his colleagues were working in a mine. They stayed there for a few days due to the radiation, but his colleagues began insisting on leaving the mine. This led to an argument, and they ended up fighting and killing each other. Only Caleb survived among them. John then tells N something he'd wanted to say for a long time, but hadn't had the courage. He tells her he believes the little boy who asked him to kill him might be her brother, because the boy told him he was looking for his parents. N is deeply distressed by this. Afterward, John and Caleb go hunting in the forest, catch an ostrich, and they all eat it together that night. The next day, John tells Caleb about his plan for electricity generation, and also mentions that N isn't agreeing to the project. Caleb really likes this idea, so he talks to N about dismantling the church. Eventually, N agrees. Then, the three of them start breaking down the church, working day and night. Meanwhile, Caleb is handsome and strong, which causes N to be attracted to him. Caleb also starts to like N, and they begin spending time together, which John doesn't like. One night, John calls N aside and tells her that if she wants to, she can pursue a relationship with Caleb, and he has no problem with it. Hearing this, N leaves without saying anything, because she couldn't decide whom to choose. From then on, John and Caleb speak less, and John secretly harbors jealousy towards Caleb. In the meantime, the water wheel is completed. The three of them celebrate this by having a party at night. Later, they go for a swim in the pond and have fun. After swimming, John tells N that he has fallen in love with her, but N doesn't respond because she had started to like Caleb. John then gets upset, drinks a lot of alcohol, and falls asleep. At night, N goes to Caleb, and they become intimate. John wakes up in the morning to find N and Caleb acting like a couple. This hurts him, and he realizes something happened between them last night. Afterward, John and Caleb work on installing the wheel for electricity generation and succeed, which makes them very happy. Then, as Caleb, wearing a suit, climbs up a rope over the waterfall, his foot suddenly slips. John immediately grabs Caleb and pulls him up, but Caleb slips again. Both of them silently look into each other's eyes, still holding the rope, but this time John lets go of the rope, causing Caleb to fall. John actually removed Caleb from his path because N had distanced herself from him since Caleb arrived. Now, there's no one between John and N. John then returns home alone. Engine apologizes to John for having a relationship with Caleb last night because she doesn't want to see John sad, but John says there's no need to apologize. N then asks John about Caleb. John replies that Caleb has gone to look for survivors. Engine is very upset by this and goes to search for Caleb but can't find him anywhere. She starts to feel that John might have killed Caleb out of jealousy. Later, when Em returns home, she sees John has started the generator, bringing light back to the house. Engina smiles a little at this but is completely broken inside because she truly loved Caleb. She then sits in a corner and plays the piano. She was playing the piano in deep sorrow, and then she looks at John, and John, who previously didn't believe in God, prays to God for the first time and asks for forgiveness for his sins. This is how the movie ends, friends. What do you all think? Does John deserve forgiveness? What would you have done if you were in John's place? Don't forget to share your opinions in the comment box. So friends, if you liked the video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And yes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bye bye, take care.